What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, February 26th, 2025, and I have a World War III alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 16:15 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major updates coming in from Eastern Europe. So Poland will start to adapt all of their civilian airports for dual military and civilian use. This is absolutely huge news, guys. Okay, so Poland will adapt all, I repeat, all of their civilian airports for dual military civilian use. Guys, that is absolutely insane. Could you imagine if, let's say, the entire state of Pennsylvania or New York or Florida or Georgia changed all their airports to be military airports? That's a big deal. Okay, so something is going on over there in Eastern Europe. Also, Poland has been building the largest defense line in Europe since World War II. They're building a massive line of fortifications along their border with Russia and Belarus, and they've also started to take inventory of nuclear fallout shelters in Warsaw left over from the Cold War days. So something's brewing. Also, it appears that Zelensky and Trump have reached an agreement on the minerals deal. So I want to just play this clip of Trump talking about the minerals deal yesterday, but it looks like Zelensky and Trump will be signing this deal on Friday, which is going to be really stabbing Russia in the back, because Putin has been talking about doing a minerals deal with the U.S., and the U.S. has been engaged with Russia, and now Trump is going to be signing this minerals deal with Zelensky that's going to allow Ukraine to continue to receive weapons to fight against Russia. So Putin is not going to be happy about that. So guys, get prepared. The escalation is continuing. Do not slack off just because we have a new president, okay? The escalation will continue. Let me play this video for you.
Mineral deal. What does Ukraine get in return, Mr. President?
$350 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and the right to fight on, and originally the right to fight. Look, Ukraine, I will say they're very brave and they're good soldiers, but without the United States and its money and its military equipment, this war would have been over in a very short period of time. In fact,
mineral deal. What does Ukraine get in return, Mr. President?
$350 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and the right to fight on.
Okay, so $350 billion and the right to fight on, and lots of military equipment.
In return, Mr. President.
$350 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and the right to fight on. And $350 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and the right to fight on. $150 billion and lots of equipment, and military equipment, and
lots of equipment, lots of military equipment, the right to fight on. So this is definitely going to piss off Putin. And right now we have most of Ukraine under an air raid alert. And last night, the U.S. moved some B-52 nuclear bombers to the Middle East, possibly. We were listening to them live in my 24/7 stream with my ham radio. We heard them doing various types of radio checks, weather checks, and refueling over New England and then also over the Western Mediterranean. I'm going to play some audio clips of that later in the stream. So the U.S. moved an unknown number of B-52s overseas. Remember, they just wrapped up some deterrence patrols over the Middle East, and then they did a flyover over Estonia on Monday. That was part of a bomber task force, which is like a routine patrol that they do in different areas of the world. But this deployment late last night was not a bomber task force. There was no additional bomber task force scheduled. So this is something else. So they did 2 patrols over the Middle East. One of them was a live fire, and we were listening to that a week and a half ago on the stream live when you could hear one of the B-52 pilots saying weapons status red. They did a live fire weapons drop. Okay, they dropped bombs or whatever, launched missiles at different test ranges in the Middle East. Okay, now we have some B-52s that had their trackers turned off that went over the Atlantic last night and into the Mediterranean. So this is clearly a sign that the U.S. is preparing to strike Iran and possibly the Houthis as well. Okay, we know that Israel is planning to strike Iran probably in the coming months. There's more and more indications now that Israel is not going to wait a whole lot longer to strike Iran, okay? And Ukrainian officials told the British newspaper, the Financial Times, Wednesday night that Kiev is ready to sign an agreement with the U.S. for the joint development of its rare mineral resources, including oil and gas. And the Americans dropped their demand to receive $500 billion as part of the deal and are content with half of future profits. So that's the new deal. The new deal is that they're going to jointly explore minerals, and Ukraine is going to share 50% of their oil and gas revenues with the U.S. And in exchange, we're going to give them all the best military equipment, and they're going to be able to continue to fight until there's some kind of a permanent settlement with Russia, which right now it doesn't look like that's going to happen because Russia has rejected the idea of a unilateral ceasefire without a permanent peace deal. Okay, so Russia will not stop fighting just for the sake of stopping fighting. Okay, Lavrov said that yesterday and the day before. So the only thing that could happen here is basically a capitulation of Ukraine. That's the only thing that Russia is going to accept, is a total capitulation and surrender, which Ukraine is not going to do because they've already lost like 1 million of their people. Their cities are rubbled. Millions of Ukrainians had to flee. Okay, so at this point, Ukraine is really pissed off, and they're not going to stop fighting because they've been fighting for 3 years. And for them to suddenly stop fighting now, unless there's a really solid peace deal, it's just not going to happen. They're not going to capitulate to Russia, okay? And Ukraine holds 5% of the world's rare mineral resources, including lanthanum, cerium, neodymium, erbium, and yttrium. It also has an abundance of metals, minerals, and rare elements such as lithium, graphite, uranium, and titanium, which the U.S. needs for its weapons, electronics, and high-tech industries. Okay, so lithium, obviously needed for batteries. Graphite can be used for nuclear reactors, uranium as well, titanium for weapons. And a lot of people have been saying that most of Ukraine's minerals are in Russian-controlled territory, and that's actually fake news. If you actually look at a real geological map of Ukraine, actually most of the mineral resources are in western Ukraine, near the Ukrainian Carpathians and going up towards Belarus. There's some huge deposits of titanium and various rare metals. Okay, so this is absolutely huge. Zelensky will be going to D.C. on Friday to sign the agreement publicly. This is going to be extremely interesting, and I will be trying to cover that live on Friday throughout the day if possible. And right now we have U.S. nuclear forces on very high alert. We have stealth bombers in the air again for the 3rd day in a row. We have multiple nuclear war command and control planes in the air, one off the west coast, one off the east coast. We have B-52 bombers over Texas right now. We also have a nuke sniffer plane up in the air, and we have some interesting reconnaissance over the upper Midwest again, looking up towards the pole and also towards the Atlantic and Pacific, which potentially means that we're under some kind of a threat And here's a closer look at this aerial refueler that's up in the air right now near Whiteman Air Force Base, which is home of the B-2 stealth bombers. You can see it was looping really low near Whiteman, indicating that it was refueling a stealth bomber. We saw this last night and the night before, so our nuclear forces are on very high alert today. Yesterday, same thing. We have a steady flow of emergency action messages today. An emergency action message is a nuclear attack option. And the French finance minister said that France, Britain, Germany, and other EU countries are ready to send troops to Ukraine to enforce a ceasefire or peace deal. He said that France received the support of this from Trump, and the French finance minister said the U.S. would need to back up the European troops. And Trump said that he's going to declare a 25% tariff on imports from the EU, describing the EU as formed to disadvantage the U.S. This statement was made during his first cabinet meeting today, leading to a sharp drop in financial markets. The move suggested potential retaliatory measures from the EU and hints at escalating trade tensions globally. He also said Ukraine should forget about joining NATO, saying that that's how the whole war started. So, guys, get prepared, okay? We have these trade wars going on now with these tariffs between the EU and the U.S. It's only going to get worse, okay? And all these wars are just going to keep escalating. And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov repeated again today that there will be no cessation of hostilities in Ukraine along the contact line. And he also reiterated that the Russian Federation opposes the deployment of peacekeepers. He also accused Europe of preventing negotiations from occurring. And he said that if Europe were to take Russia's frozen assets, that would violate international law. And the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said there are no clarifications yet on the personal meeting with Trump and Putin. He said there is an understanding that it should take place and should be well prepared. So there's no hard meeting set yet between Trump and Putin, okay? It's just an idea at this point. They haven't actually agreed to anything, okay? And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And I want to just show you guys some more nuclear forces activity over the U.S. Here we have a nuclear war command and control plane off the coast of New Jersey. And these planes are responsible for communicating with our submerged nuclear-armed submarines. Here we have a nuke sniffer that's looping over Offutt Air Base, the home of U.S. Strategic Command. And then here we have another nuclear war command and control plane over Oregon. So our nuclear forces are on very high alert. And yesterday, we also had another stealth bomber getting refueled over Whiteman. We had a B-52 over the Black Hills. This was late at night. And we had a ton of refuelers in the Midwest indicating that they were refueling some airborne assets that had their flight trackers turned off, potentially various stealth bombers, okay? So the stealth bombers have been airborne very, very frequently in the last few days, and Israel is warning a military option could be required to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons and is looking to U.S. President Donald Trump for help in ramping up pressure on the Islamic Republic, according to Foreign Minister Gideon Saar. Speaking to Politico in Brussels, Saar said time was running out as Iran had enriched enough uranium for a couple of bombs and was playing with ways to weaponize its enriched nuclear material, an outcome he said would have a hugely destabilizing impact on the Middle East. So we don't have much time, he said. While Israel still wants to pursue a diplomatic path, Saar added that the chances of such an approach being successful were not huge, and that failure to stop Iran's nuclear program would be a catastrophe for the security of Israel. I think in order to stop a nuclear Iranian program before it will be weaponized, a reliable military option should be on the table, he said. When asked about the possibility of strikes during the Trump presidency, failure to do so would trigger a nuclear race in the Middle East with Egypt, the Saudis, and Turkey, he added. Okay, so Israel wants to strike Iran immediately, and Taiwan's Coast Guard boarded the Chinese-owned ship Hong Tae after it was caught destroying an undersea telecommunications cable between Taiwan and its Penghu Islands. The crew, which is all Chinese, is being detained and taken to Taiwan. The vessel suspected of damaging the cable connecting Taiwan to its outlying Penghu Islands carried a flag of convenience and was crewed by 8 Chinese nationals, Taiwan's Coast Guard said in a statement. Shortly after the ship dropped anchor in the early hours of Tuesday, Taiwan's telecom company Chunghua Telecom detected that the cable had been disconnected. The Coast Guard said it intercepted and boarded the vessel before escorting it back to a port in the city of Tainan for investigations. So China cutting another cable in Taiwan between the Penghu Islands and the mainland of Taiwan. And Taiwan says that Chinese live fire training about 40 nautical miles off of Taiwan's coast is a blatant provocation and a threat to the safety of international flights and shipping. So China just started unannounced live fire exercises 40 nautical miles off the coast of Taiwan. Okay, and Taiwan said that they deployed troops. Okay, so Taiwan is on very, very high alert. And last night, Israel conducted a wide-scale attack on Syria. Multiple rounds of airstrikes on Damascus and the surrounding areas were reported. Now remember, guys, Damascus is in the Bible. In the Bible, it says that before the tribulation period starts, Damascus will be completely destroyed. And we're starting to see the beginning stages of that. Look at what happened in Gaza, how Israel leveled Gaza after the October 7 attack. So looks like Damascus is going to become Gaza soon. And apparently also the Israeli military entered into southern Syria last night with armored vehicles. And apparently Syria's presidential palace was evacuated during the Israeli airstrikes. The Israeli military reported that they destroyed several weapons depots in Al-Kiswa. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said that the Air Force is now strongly attacking southern Syria as part of the new policy we have defined on pacifying southern Syria. And the message is clear: we will not allow southern Syria to become southern Lebanon, okay? And Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Putin's invasion will not stop at Ukraine's borders. The only effective response to him is force. Okay, and remember, the UK and France have already agreed to send 30,000 troops into Ukraine. That's why they met with Trump this week, all right, to confirm that they're going to send these troops, and the U.S. is going to back them up. Also, France is going to be deploying nuclear-armed fighter jets in Germany. And last night, Ukraine conducted a massive drone attack on Russia. They targeted the Krasnodar oil refinery in Tuapse, and apparently 40 explosions were reported in Tuapse, and there were also explosions heard in Sevastopol. Russia claims to have shot down 128 drones. They were also launching drones at the Sochi airport, which is where Putin's $200 million mansion is located. Everybody says that Zelensky plunders his people's money and lives in mansions. Well, what about Putin? Putin has probably billions of dollars worth of mansions, including his $200 million dacha in Sochi, okay? And the Polish president, Andrzej Duda, said Poland is prepared to host all U.S. troops currently stationed in Germany. And this comes just 48 hours after the Polish president met with Trump. And the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said Russia was concerned about Israel violating the Hamas ceasefire agreement and hostage deal. And the Chinese Navy's unprecedented show of firepower in waters between Australia and New Zealand has raised alarm in both countries in recent days as a clearer picture emerges of how much warning Beijing gave about the exercises. The first note of the Chinese drills in the Tasman Sea came in a radio transmission on an emergency frequency monitored by a Virgin Australia passenger jet on Friday, according to Australian officials. The Virgin pilot relayed the information to Australian aviation authorities, who then issued a hazard alert via air traffic control. So this is huge news, guys. China did not tell Australia that they were doing these live fire exercises right off the coast of Sydney, the capital of Australia, okay? And basically a passenger pilot had to call in what he observed, which were probably missiles going off into the air near his plane. And then Australia had to divert air traffic around the Tasman Sea. I mean, that is absolutely insane. Also, China did not file a NOTAM or anything. Okay, so this was very, very provocative by China, and China's Ministry of Defense said Sunday that the exercises conducted in international waters complied with international law and did not affect aviation safety. It also slammed Australia for hyping up the drills and making unreasonable accusations. Well, they're doing live fire drills 40 miles from the capital of their country. What do they expect? You know, it's like if the U.S. put a carrier strike group 40 miles off the coast of China and started doing live fire drills. I'm sure China wouldn't like that. And China said the U.S. should remove the Typhoon missile system from the Philippines, saying that it has a destabilizing influence in the region. And the Mexican Defense Secretary confirmed that American surveillance assets have been flying over Mexico at the request of the Mexican government, with several high-level arrests of senior Chapitos leaders in the Mexican state of Sinaloa claimed to have resulted from these surveillance flights. So the Trump administration is already cleaning up the cartels, arresting several of these cartel members in Sinaloa, but I do think they're going to end up launching strikes and possibly special operations raids or even a light invasion into Mexico, because the Trump administration has already moved multiple airborne forces and the 10th Mountain Division and Stryker brigades to the border of Mexico. You don't move Stryker brigades, the 10th Mountain Division, and the 82nd Airborne unless you're planning to invade somewhere. And the Trump administration plans to create a registry for illegal immigrants in the U.S. to submit their personal information or face fines and prison time, according to documents including a draft regulation seen by the Wall Street Journal. And here we have the 3 aerial refuelers that met the B-52s that flew over the Atlantic last night. They refueled the B-52s over the Western Mediterranean. And then we had a nuke sniffer fly from the home of Strategic Command in Nebraska to Hawaii. And here we have some audio of the B-52s flying over the Atlantic and getting refueled somewhere near New England.
Kyle 1-1 flight update. Full pound. Kyle 1-1 flight. took all scheduled fuel from AR2. Lead took 140,000 pounds. 2 took 130,000 pounds. We are on time and proceeding to Sackett.
So that was the bomber pilot saying that they took all available fuel from, I guess, aerial refuel number 2, and that would be over the Western Mediterranean. Those 3 aerial refuelers I just showed you. So this was over the Western Mediterranean.
1-1, well found. Do you have any updates for Kyle Flight regarding our tactical environment? Feel free to proceed by passing on sonar correction AC1.
Then they were asking for updates on the tactical environment. And then here we have audio from the B-52s flying over New England and getting refueled over there.
Flam 1-1 flight check. 2. Boston Center, Flam 1-1 flight on your new frequency 250/260.
Flam 1-1 flight, thank you.
Boston Center, Flam 1-1 flight.
Flam 1-1 flight, go ahead.
For Flam 1-1 flight, we're trying to meet up with Kyle flight. Could you just let him know we're checking in on AR Prime?
Flam 1-1, welcome. And Kyle 1-1 flight, the Flam 1-1 said they're checking in on the AR frequency. Flam 1-1, are you going to be the lead for the flight of 5?
A-firm for Flam 1-1, it should only be a flight of 4. Our number 3 is still on the ground for Flam 1-1 flight.
There's 2 of you and there's 3 of them.
Flam 1-1 flight copies.
Kyle 1-1, the Flam flight is about 50 miles ahead. They're executing a right 360 to join you. They're already in the block flight level 230 to flight level 270. Advise when you would like to join them at their block altitude. Flam 1-1, are you in contact with the Kyle flight?
A-firm for Flam 1-1 flight, we declare marks with Kyle flight at this time.
Flam 1-1 flight, thank you.
So Flam 1-1 was one of the refuelers, and Kyle 1-1 was one of the bombers. Here we have a U.S. high-priority recon plane that was patrolling the coast of Pakistan and Iran. So potentially something's brewing over here in Pakistan because it was flying right along the coastline of Pakistan. And this plane sends intelligence directly to the president and our top generals. It's an RC-135 combat scent. And then here's Flam 1-1, the refueler. And you can see it was flying near Nova Scotia. Okay. So these dark B-52s got refueled off the coast of Maine, close to Nova Scotia. We also had some more reconnaissance of the Mexican border last night. Here's a P-8 Poseidon that was flying along the border of Texas and New Mexico. And we have some more reconnaissance in Eastern Europe last night. Here we have a Swedish recon plane that was doing an interesting pattern here in the Baltic Sea going north to south. Very interesting. I've never seen this plane do this before, so this is something new. We also had a U.S. aerial refueler over northern Poland. And then we also had an AWACS plane in the Gulf of Riga. And then we also had this Russian Air Force plane that went to Kaliningrad. And then here's a map showing where the Chinese live fire exercises have been taking place in Australia. You can see Sydney over here. And this is where that first live fire exercise took place, right off the coast of Sydney. And this forced flights to be diverted, and then they moved a little bit further out into the Tasman Sea outside of Australia's exclusive economic zone. And now they're right off the coast of New Zealand. So this is very, very concerning. And then we had some interesting reconnaissance activity in South Korea. We had a U.S. aerial refueler go out into the Yellow Sea and then disappear from the flight tracker. So guys, get prepared. We have things happening all over the world. Okay, escalation will continue. The wars will continue. The economy of the U.S. is in dire straits and the global economy is in dire straits. So continue to prepare. Don't get lazy, okay? Unfortunately, there will not be peace on earth until Jesus Christ returns. So I will be back later on tonight, potentially, with more breaking news. Also, download my app from the Google Play Store. It's 100% free, and it allows me to notify you when things are going on. You can actually set notifications in the app. It kind of works like the Ukraine Air Raid Alert app or the Israel Air Raid Alert app. You get these loud notifications when something's happening. I can send out alerts to you, and also when I post these updates, I send them out through the app so you never miss an update if you have the app. But I can update you in real time through the app as things are happening, okay? And you can download the app in the Google Play Store. The link is in the description below this video. You can also just search NYPrepper Emergency Alerts in the Google Play Store. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.